Hey folks, this is Soul with your weekly tips and reminders of what's happening this week in Warcraft. Use the navigation below if you need to skip around. Also hit the like button, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live over on Twitch, and let's start with what to pay attention to before patch 10.1.7. For the most part, you can relax. There's nothing like super urgent or FOMO that's going on, at least nothing that we know of so far, so if you want to skip out on this patch altogether, I don't blame you at all. Although you'll probably do a little bit of backtracking when you need to come back to do some of this quest content when patch 10.2 drops. Somehow I'm going to be playing a balancing act with Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and Sea of Stars, while doing 10.1.7 content, but probably not before doing like one quick hardcore run. Gamers this summer are eating really good. But here are a few tips. I say don't worry about leveling brand new characters right now if you're trying to get an army up. At some point, the Turbulent Timeways event is going to happen, so you can just kind of hang out with that for now. If you're interested in the Undead and Heritage Armor questlines and appearances, you only need a level 50 character of that race. There's no reputation required. Undead players do have a different sort of prerequisite though. They happen to get a pretty cool questline towards the end of the Shadowlands expansion, no spoilers, but it's very cool. I'm not certain if your undead character needs to have completed it for the purpose of the Heritage Quest, and unfortunately with the Heritage Quest encrypted, there's no way to test this out. I'm hoping that no, you don't have to do it on that same character, because most people who did this quest back then, they used a hunter for, well, reasons. If you haven't done this and you want to cover all your bases, I would say use a level 50 undead hunter to complete this early quest and you're good to go. Night Elves, you have nothing of the sorts, just hop on and play. There are tons of profession-related achievements, but I want to again point out big engineering achievements that unlock goggle appearances for your character. This will let you swap between the many different colors, although you still need to be an engineer to put on these appearances. The achievement asks you to craft many of the goggles throughout WoW's expansions, and you have to craft them after the patch. From limited testing, this does not seem to be grandfathered in. What you can do now though is start gathering materials for the dozens of goggles that you'll be making, as well as farming up recipes, which means lots of trips to the Sunwell raid. These particular recipes are not soulbound, so they might go for a pretty penny on your server for those who are interested in the achievement, but not the pain of finding these recipe drops. I'll mention this again later, but you can also collect additional Riders of Azeroth badges in the hopes that you can easily buy new items that appear off the Dragon Racing Cup vendor. It also means you only have 1 week left to do this. There's no guarantee if new items will be added in future cups, but if you have the spare time, consider having a few characters rack up coins in advance. Now on to hotfixes. The so-called God Comp is receiving another round of nerfs this week, which has the most effect on Mythic Plus at high scaling, but it's going to be felt at lower skill bands too. Guardian Druids are losing more of their Ursoc's Fury Absorb. The bonus to Frenzied Regen granted by Innate Resolve is being reduced. Fire Mage AoE is being reduced by a little bit more with direct nerfs to some abilities, while Incendiary Eruptions has an internal cooldown of 10 seconds, up from 8, which is, another direct AoE nerf. Holy Paladin damage has taken another swing to the face with a flat 10% damage decrease, while Blessing of Summer's DPS buff takes another hit. In other tuning news, I-Beam and Fel Devastation for Demon Hunters can no longer be interrupted by school lockout effects. Looks like it still means they could be kicked and stunned though. Mistweaver monks are getting a bump with a modest boost to fist weaving heals and more health granted by Yu'lon's Grace. They're also doubling the absorb from Chi Cocoon while nerfing Enveloping Breath a bit. According to the dev notes, quote, "We're shifting more of Celestial Harmony's throughput into Chi Cocoon with the intent of keeping the talent's power similar in raid and increased in dungeon content," end quote. Rogues are getting a flat 5% buff to all abilities and auto attack damage. Nice. And warriors are getting some love by cutting the damage penalty of defensive stance in half, a more powerful spell reflect, and more stamina. At the top end of Mythic Plus, scaling is going to change for the remainder of the season, however long that is. Before, starting after key level 20, health and damage values went up by 10%, and that's being knocked down to 8% per key level. Between this and the recent nerfs, the hope is that other classes and comps would be able to reach the highest level of keys, while the current meta would remain at or near the top. Maybe the damage is already done, but we shouldn't expect future 0.5 patches to introduce like a whole ass support spec, right? The Battleground bonus event is happening this week for some extra honor and conquest. Arathi Blizzard is the brawl. It's the one where you're better off looking at chat to check for incoming enemies because now they're both equally reliable. The Kalimdor Cup continues for 1 more week. It was never really a secret, but if you want to collect all the appearances, including the dragon riding manuscripts, if you're not like the best at racing, what you can do is jump on multiple characters to collect appearances and manuscripts that are shared account-wide. So one character can get like half the ensemble, that's like, I don't know, 60 or 80 badges. Another character can get the other half, another still can get one of the manuscripts, and so on until you're done. It's going to mean a lot of racing across multiple characters. It also means stressing a lot less over getting gold on every track. It also makes me wonder, I just mentioned this earlier, what if I just amass a bunch of points on one or more characters? Would that future-proof me when new items are added? It would sort of be like Trial of Style, like, okay, I got a bunch of these extra points, and when new items come in, I just buy them, and that's it, I'm done. There's more than a handful of people who would just love something like that to dominate the way WoW works instead of, introducing new currencies, but that's a longer discussion for a different time. And over in Mythic Plus World, the affixes are Fortified, Storming, Bursting, and the Great Push. Despite the synergy, these affixes are fairly manageable as long as your DPS are doing their part to stagger kills, while the healer makes up for their lack of competence. And tanks are like, whatever, it's a push week, I don't have to think about anything, who wants to come? Possibly getting in the way is the good old Great Push affix, where randomly one of your teammates will pull like a pro but still play like it's the Dungeon Finder. This week could either be really chill or a big news dump as Gamescom is happening. It's one of the biggest and, well, I guess one of the still remaining gaming conventions around. On the Dragonflight side of things, historical trends have had talking heads predict that this is the perfect week for Blizzard to show off. I mean, yeah, there are some previous things like Overwatch's launch and Diablo 4 Seasons, but there's also the launch of WoW Classic Hardcore this week and maybe a WoW Patch 10.2 reveal. Whatever you feel about all these games, there's just a lot going on over at Blizzard, so let's cross our fingers and hope for a cool surprise. And I'll be here to react on it. Please like the video if it was useful, subscribe to stay on top of whatever it is that's going on in WoW, catch me live on Twitch, and let's have Bob close us out. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.
You start in town, get up all the weeklies, then you head down, check and notice but there aren't 10. Then you do a circle around the aisles, helping dragons for a while, do a hunt, cook soup and some bounties. For some dungeons, stopping invasions, helping the dragon nations. But in the end, you're just a gamer, you're just trying to get the big reputation. Big reputation. Ooh, you and me were founding big reputations. That's what they were really trying to do. I want some trash bomb too. Done.